and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down the week that was, as well as look ahead to the week upcoming, it's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Kyle. Before we get started here, I just want to give a huge shout out. As you see, I'm wearing that 2311 hat. Bubba Wallace got his first win today at Talladega. And if you watch our shows, he was my best bet this week at top 10. I'm just beyond happy to see him finally get in victory lane and do it in his home state. So I just wanted to get that out of the way and say congrats to Bubba. That was awesome.
It was an awesome race. It sucked that he couldn't win it there because he won because of rain delay, but he definitely earned that victory. He was awesome driver and guy pops in restrictor plate racing. But yeah, we're here to talk. So the week that was.
Maybe we just talk about next week. Let's not talk about my week.
No, we can talk about the week that was and be transparent, and we can talk about the week ahead. It was not a great week for Brian. Brian got absolutely hammered. This is what happens
when you take the bait
heavily in on a big public favorite. You win it all over the Bucks. The first half team total, the full game team total. The Bucks spread.
Hey man, full disclosure, this was before Gronkowski got ruled out. This is before the expectation was torrential downpour. This was before they were going to be minus 2 of their 3 starting corners, only to see their best one go into the game injured. So that being said, it was probably a mistake to go that heavy on that game. But
no, I mean it probably wasn't the move, but at the same time, you're right. Now, I guess with that all being said, with the injuries to the secondary, with injuries to Gronk, are you starting to be a little more, open to the idea that maybe Tampa Bay isn't this juggernaut that could run through the NFC and, end up back in the Super Bowl again? Or are you still pretty bullish on them going forward?
Well, the one thing that New England was able to do that other teams haven't yet, and I thought it was very apropos, it was very poetic that Tom Brady was affected by the defense that he benefited from for 2 decades. I mean, you saw them doing what they used to do to Peyton Manning, what they did to Baltimore, what they did to Denver with Peyton Manning. They were getting physical with the receivers. They were changing up the defense. They forced Tampa to run the ball late in the game to hopefully keep the game close, which was a brilliant idea by Belichick. And then seeing what Arizona did this weekend in LA, seeing how good Dallas looked. I mean, I don't like talking about my team, but the fact that they continue to create turnovers at the rate that they are, I mean, that's something to take notice of.
Obviously turnovers aren't super consistent week to week, but if that defense keeps making plays, there's a legitimate chance that Dallas is very, very good. The team that's not very, very good is my Tennessee Titans, who can't block and can't put pressure on the opposing quarterback. Zach Wilson, who had more interceptions than completions through 5 passes in week 2, I believe, had more interceptions than touchdowns, had, Sam Darnold had more rushing touchdowns than the Jets had total touchdowns going into week 4. That was a pathetic performance.
I mean, no offense to the guys that were playing wide receiver for the Titans, though, but when you're playing defense and you're going up against a team who literally has nobodies on the outside, you can even Derrick Henry still went off. But you don't have to defend against the pass.
But Ben Jones got hurt. The center, he came back.
Tyler Lewan is not the same guy.
Up. Roger Saffold's banged up. That offensive, the Jets sacked Ryan Tannehill 7 times on Sunday.
That's crazy.
If that keeps happening with the Titans, they're not going anywhere. They're not.
And the Colts looked a lot better in Miami.
Yeah. So I think the AFC South might just be a trash can division, and nobody's actually that good. Tennessee might win it just because the Texans and Jags and even Indy are pretty terrible. But they're going to be 9-8 or whatever, and sneak in and probably get smashed in the first round. So they blew up your teaser along with the Bucks. So that was
the Bucks still covered on my tees.
Oh yeah, because they won by 2. That's right. So,
that's why you tease those games for sure.
Yeah, just don't put big favorites on the road. I guess I don't know.
But I got to give you props, man. The Giants. What the F was that?
Giants, baby. I was not feeling great in the last little half of the fourth quarter. And within moments, both the Giants and Washington not only cover, but obviously the Giants get the outright win. I saw some people in New York putting Jets and Giants 2-team money line parlays out there, turning $50 into like $5,000. Shouts to y'all. Was really, really good to see those 2 bets come to fruition, especially
on that too. It's the first time since 2009 that both New York football teams and the Yankees won on the same day.
Wild. That's crazy. What else happened in 2009? I feel like that was kind of an important year for Yankee baseball.
That's the last time they took
things
home
to come.
We'll see. They got to get past those stupid people you have on your hat there. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's what you get for rooting for Michigan. I have to remind you sometimes. So yeah, I hit both of those. I felt worse and worse about Detroit as the week went along. That line just got ugly. It didn't move very much. The whole world seemed to be on Detroit, and I was tempted to bet Chicago in the morning, and really wish I had, because they were the better team from start to finish. I still have the Chargers tonight. We're obviously recording this prior to the Monday Night Football game. Baltimore, easy win. We'll talk some injuries here in a second. From the player prop perspective, Nick Chubb over 77.5. That's a win. Quintez Cephas got back on the board, 4 catches. That's a win. Antonio Gibson didn't have the game I was expecting. He got like 62 yards, so just short of his prop of 65.5. Didn't get his long rush. Kind of disappointing. Big Terry McLaurin game. Back on the Jared Goff rushing train, 6.5 yards. And then obviously I told everyone to take Derrick Henry under minus 112.5. That was real dumb.
How do you ever bet against that guy?
That's just like the most, like, the Titans got smoked or like were down majority of that game, looking bad the whole time, and somehow he rushes for like 130 yards.
But I think that tells you, like, they were seriously missing those 2 big guys on the outside. Like, the fact that they had to continue running in order to move the ball just showed you how bad the passing attack was yesterday.
Yeah, it was not pretty. And you think if he was rushing that well, then it would be a little easier to have a little less pressure. But I don't know. I don't know what to do. And we need to talk about the Jets, because there is some attention going their way heading into this week. But let's shift our focus and talk some injuries and talk some ones that are affecting teams and how we think about them. So we'll start in San Francisco. Obviously, you nailed your Seattle pick. I didn't give you props for that. I was wrong about that one. Jimmy G got hurt. Trent Williams got hurt, left, came back. It sounds like the reports as of today are much, much better than we expected. And there's a chance that both could play. I guess, what do you make of San Francisco? Do you expect, I'm really close to the team, so I have a kind of a warped mindset of what this team may or may not be. But where are you at with this team and the possibility of Trey Lance not only playing against Arizona in week 5, but potentially starting?
Trey Lance put up good numbers, and I almost feel like people now are getting so like tunnel visioned in terms of looking at stuff from a fantasy perspective. They're losing sight of like real life football performance. And Trey Lance, he's a rookie. Like you could tell out there, he does not look like he's polished whatsoever. There's a lot of mistaken like reads by him in terms of either not hitting the dump off and deciding just to run or just throwing to the wrong guy. I think they're really hurt right now by the fact that all of their running backs that they have, and this may be helped this week by Elijah Mitchell losing the non-contact jersey, but they have no burst out of the backfield.
Trey Sermon looked great. I got to push back there. Trey Sermon looked great.
He does look good, but he does not have that like big play, boom, I'm going to go for 60. He's like the Zeke. he's going to get you like the 15, 20 yarders, but he ain't running away from anybody. And I think Elijah Mitchell offers something a little bit more than Sermon in that regard. But also too, like the defense, they're good. They were getting tremendous pressure on Russell Wilson early, and then they disappeared late in the game.
The secondary is trash, and if the front four especially can't get pressure on the opposing quarterback, then it's going to be a long day.
And if they allowed Russell Wilson to do what he did, imagine what Kyler Murray's going to do.
Basically broke the game because the Niners were the better team for the whole first half, and then it broke. So Trey Lance is definitely thinking too much and not playing enough. Almost seems hesitant to run at points where he's trying to make throws, and then he's Kaepernicking his way into velocity across the middle.
I saw that too.
Missing some good opportunities. The one thing I will say is if the Niners, I think long term it would behoove them to start him and let him get his reps in, even if it means this season doesn't go exactly as they hope. I think long term it'll help them, but Jimmy's good enough to get them to a Super Bowl. And if this defense, the front seven could put pressure, the running game gets fixed a little bit. Debo looks like an absolute, machine out there. There's still potential. It's a really weird division. We saw Arizona kick the crap out of the Rams. Kyler and company look amazing. We'll see what that's like. Seattle one week looks really strong, other weeks look terrible. This week Seattle and the Rams will play. I think that's going to be really interesting. Let's head to Denver and talk about that situation, because this Broncos team, we were kind of wondering, was it smoke and mirrors? Was it just really good defense and in a crappy, schedule? Well, now we're not going to really know because Teddy's hurt. Drew Lock is your starter, at least for the next week or so. We'll see kind of how the next couple weeks play out. If Bridgewater is somehow able to clear concussion protocol, maybe we see him sooner, but
he took a lot of shots yesterday.
Yeah, and he was it was not a pretty sight at all.
And they're banged up on the offensive line, and now they get Pittsburgh, who, even though they didn't create a lot of pressure against the Packers, Green Bay gets the ball out really fast.
I took Pittsburgh in that game as a back Mike Tomlin, who was awesome when his team looks like garbage, and hope that he could cobble it together. And I was feeling really good about that for half, maybe not even that. And then Aaron Rodgers just smoked the crap out of him, and things got poor.
I have to completely backtrack on what I said prior to the season. This offense looks exactly like we saw last year. Ben Roethlisberger's throwing behind the line of scrimmage by 5 yards on 4th and 6. I mean, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's very so. Having a capable offensive line that can actually protect the quarterback, especially when they're an older guy, especially when they don't move very well, is critical. And we saw last year, even with Tennessee, the difference between Tennessee the last 2 years, where they were a legitimate, maybe not a Super Bowl team, but right there, they were in the mix. They were an AFC Championship game 2 years ago. They were in the playoffs last year. And now Ryan Tannehill is just running for his life, and they look like an absolute dumpster fire losing to the Jets. If you can't protect your quarterback, nothing works. Everything's based on timing and your receivers having time to get down the field, open up passing lanes, that kind of stuff. It's just not happening. And I was kind of hoping Pittsburgh could figure that out. I was kind of hoping Najee could be the thing, but no, it's an absolute mess. So Pittsburgh's going to have to get that figured out. But yeah, Denver's in a very, very similar boat. In news that surprises no one, Will Fuller got hurt again because Will Fuller.
Brandon Cooks is still better if we want to go back a couple of years.
The Bears lost David Montgomery.
We won't know further how significant, but the expectation is it's not season ending. So I think there's some hope that it's maybe a strain or something of that nature, a slight sprain, maybe a few weeks.
I was watching this game pretty closely. It didn't look great when he got injured.
No, it did not.
You could tell he was in a lot of pain. On Thursday, Jacksonville lost DJ Chark. We'll see what that looks like. Do you have any updated information on that, Brian?
So Chark was placed on IR today. He'll miss the rest of the season. He had a fractured ankle, I think it was. Yep. It was an ankle or foot. So he's done. Ankle. Yeah. So I mean, I guess that just opens up the offense in terms of it's gonna, now there's less people to have to throw to, and it'll be interesting to see how Trevor Lawrence matures because he looked better.
He looked much better against Cincinnati. It was good to see LaVisca get involved. They still have Marvin Jones. They still have pieces. I'm
as Dan Arnold gets worked into the offense a little bit more.
Dan Arnold, he's the chance of him becoming a thing even becomes a little bit more.
His player props are back in are back in line, baby.
Yeah. Any other big injuries that you're thinking about in terms of affecting how well a team can potentially play or other stuff going into as we look ahead to week 5?
Well, I mean, he's on the graphic right here, and I think you definitely saw the impact of his absence, and that's got to be Rob Gronkowski. I mean, you saw it on numerous attempts against New England where Bray and Brady were not on the same page. There was, a little bit of miscommunication in terms of where to cut the route off, where Brady's putting the ball. They did not have a red zone guy. And, I know they get Miami this week, who Tampa Bay should handle, but I mean, what is this passing offense going to look like minus his go-to guy, in the red zone? I mean, they've really struggled down there to score. So it'll be interesting to see how they're able to fix that.
Yeah, it's been pretty much Gronk or a field goal. So that's not ideal. I mean, they do have OJ Howard and Cameron Brate, so that in theory makes sense. But as you mentioned, it didn't look very good in the game against New England. Obviously, it's New England. They know a lot about Brady, and the weather definitely didn't help. But we'll have to monitor that going forward. Let's take a look at the lines and some of the early stuff popping off the page. I will say, Brian, I've been doing my my lines versus what the actual lines are.
I gotta hear these.
There's 2 teams that I need some help on. Is New England better than I think they are? I don't know how good I think they are, but I feel like each week they're either getting too many points or getting too much respect, and I kind of want to fade them. Obviously, I rode them last night because I thought they were. I thought there was just enough juice to get opposite Tampa Bay, but there's always a chance to take a side one way or the other, but I feel like I'm constantly not as optimistic and not as high as the books on New England, and maybe that's has more to do with the perception of what New England is and where the money is coming from, and less about what they actually think they are. But I'm constantly 2, 3, 4 points below them.
Yeah, I found the line a little bit interesting. I mean, the Patriots at almost double-digit favorite in Houston, and I can see that by the terms of, I mean, you have Bill Belichick going up against a former disciple. You have a rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, going up against a Bill Belichick defense. New England just almost beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but like we mentioned, Tampa Bay was, down a quarter of its starters in that game. So, I mean, how much of that played into the way the game went? How much of the emotion went into the game? New England's offense looked a lot better, but the way that they play, it's going to be hard for them to cover these kinds of lines because all it's going to take is one big play by Houston and they're back in it. And New England does not push the ball. Like, they're probably one of the slowest teams in the NFL in terms of like neutral or leading pace because they want to run the ball. So, and also too, and their defense funnels teams to the run, which is what Houston does good.
Yeah.
So I think this line is a little bit too big for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's already up to 9.5 in some spots. If I can get a 10 with Houston, I will be pounding that. I'm probably going to have to take 9.5, but I'm also, I think, okay with that.
Yeah.
I think New England wins this game, and I think they win it comfortably. But like you said, it's going to be a lot of running. Brandon Cooks maybe gets over the top for one.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, New England wins comfortably, but it's 24, 21, something like that. 24.
I can even see this game as being the lowest total of the week. One of those like 16-10 games or 16-9 or some crap.
And then the other game that really stood out to me, let me pull up my sheet here once again. Okay, so the Chargers, I know they played tonight, and I know the number hasn't been released by a lot of books, but How are the Chargers underdogs at home versus the Browns?
I think this is a case of they're looking at what Cleveland does well versus what the Chargers absolutely are the worst at, and that is defending the run.
Okay.
And if
Yeah,
Cleveland,
they're atrocious against it. They're really good
yes,
against the pass, but they're awful against the run.
and I think that's where you find the issues with the Chargers is that if a team gets rolling on the ground, they are going to have to commit more people into the box, which makes them susceptible to the kind of offense that Cleveland runs, which is, predicated on those play action, going deep to the tight ends over the middle and all that kind of stuff. So honestly, this is a pick 'em.
Yeah, I mean, it as bad as so Baker played like absolute garbage on Sunday.
Yes.
Missed Odell wide open several times. I was not tilting my face off at all. I didn't have him in DFS or in line of season long or any of that stuff. Looked like absolute garbage, and yet they won by a touchdown.
Yeah.
I guess that's the expectation, right? This is a perfect scenario to run the ball really well, to play some awesome defense that got that good pressure, got some good back end help. The Browns, like we've been talking. It's funny that it seems like there's a new team tied to Aaron Rodgers each and every week. But if you put Aaron Rodgers on this Browns team, like they're the best team in football, right?
I would, yes. And this is something like it's super early in the season, but I mean, as the weeks go by, I just I feel like I become more and more vindicated in that Baker Mayfield is what's holding this team back.
Yeah.
I mean, and the fact that Odell Beckham did, I shared this with Kyle. Somebody tweeted earlier today, like his numbers with Odell as opposed to without are
yeah
way worse. And it's
it's got a little noise just because Odell was there early last year, and then the offense finally opened up when Odell got hurt. I think that's kind of a little happenstance, a little coincidence. But there's serious problems with Baker, and he makes some dumb decisions and things that at this point of his career should not be in the realm of outcomes. And
he looks like Johnny Manziel on some of his scrambles when he's running.
He has the running backs, and he has obviously not having Jarvis Landry, not having some of the pass catchers isn't ideal.
Yeah.
But he has pretty much everything else. So I'm optimistic on this Browns team, and maybe that, that's why I like to talk these things out early in the week. So I'm not just making dumb bets and not just diving into sides that I don't want to be backing. And then I'm left like last week holding the Lions ticket when I really, by the end of the week, shouldn't be holding it. So I like to work these things out. I also thought it was really interesting that the Jets are only 3.5-point underdogs at Atlanta. I know the Falcons aren't great, and
it's because they're playing this game in London.
Oh, that's right. We're going to London town.
Biscuits and tea and biscuits for
the Jets are awful. I know the Titans made them look like an NFL franchise again, but I'm not sure that they are. And I think even as bad as Atlanta is, poor London, they get here's two of the 3 or 4 worst teams in all the NFL. I mean, if we had sent the Texans over with the Jets, I think that's the only way it's worse. But
I think I saw somebody else tweet today too. The combined records for the teams of the next 2 London games is 4-11, or it's probably not that much, but it's bad.
Yeah. 60% of the bets, 94% of the money currently on the Jets. I'm curious how that moves throughout the week, but I did think that was really interesting.
Of note, though, I will say, so the Jets this year, even after 4 games, they've only given up a total of 905 passing yards and just 2 passing touchdowns. So I think that's why the line is set as it is, as their strength is what Atlanta likes to do. And Atlanta, they still can't run the ball for a lick. I mean, when you have Cordell Patterson putting up 3 touchdowns and catching as many balls as he is, that's just that shows you how bad they are.
There was some ugly football. Are the Dolphins? Am I too the other team? I was curious. Am I too optimistic on the Dolphins? I liked them against Indianapolis, and maybe it's just Jacoby Brissett's just not it. Obviously he's kind of Andy Daltoning that offense and kind of dumbing it down, and then not having Will Fuller obviously doesn't help either. But New England's getting 10.5 this week at home, coming off that ugly win at New England. Are the Bucs just going to steamroll Miami this week, or do you think we should be looking at the Dolphins as a potential target for some of our early bets?
Yeah, I gotta say I like Tampa in this game. I just think that with all of the stress of that New England game gone, I think Tampa Bay is able to relax and get back to what they like to do. But with that being said, though, I think the future is still bright for this Dolphins team. I mean, when you look at their schedule at New England to open the year, still one of the best defensive schemers in the NFL, going up against a former disciple, Buffalo, who is every bit the best team in the AFC potentially, the Raiders, who are still undefeated going into tonight's Monday Night Football game, and then this week against Indianapolis, who still field one of the best defenses. They're getting healthy on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, although losing Quentin Nelson isn't ideal.
Yeah, that is big. But with having Carson Wentz healthier, you could tell this offense is a lot better. Yeah. So yeah, they've had a tough road here, minus Tua, and Brissett is very limited in what they can do with this offense.
Let's talk about the biggest game of the weekend. Sunday night, I'm going to be locked in on this one. Yes. Kansas City hosting the Buffalo Bills. This could be an AFC Championship preview. The Chiefs are 2.5 or 3 points, depending on where you look.
Level on a neutral field is what that's saying, by the way.
And I think that's fair. I think the Chiefs' offense is better. Obviously, Tyreek had a big breakout game, and we kind of felt that coming.
Knew it was coming.
But Buffalo's defense is so much better than Kansas City's. I think that kind of balances out. So yeah, I think if this was a AFC title game in Jacksonville, this would be a pick 'em. Maybe the Chiefs a slight favorite, but I think pretty much 2.5 across the board with 1-3 sitting out there tells you that maybe Buffalo would be a slight favorite. Do you have any strong feelings about this game other than wanting to sit down and watch it? Because that's basically where I'm at.
Yeah, I got burnt last year, and maybe I was a year early, but I thought it was the Bills' time last year to take this, and it could potentially be this year because they do look like the better overall team, and like we said, that defense is ferocious. But I mean, it's hard to bet against Kansas City coming back home for a Sunday night game, off of a pretty big win in Philly. Yeah, I don't know if I'll have much on here. I like the total. I like teasing this down to just over 50 and going over here because Kansas City's pass defense sucks.
Yeah.
But other than that, I really don't have a lean either way on the side here.
Yeah, I think taking the Bills and the over and teasing them both down could make some sense.
But we've seen it before with Buffalo, though, is that if they get out of sorts early, they're kind of they pack it in. It seems like almost
because they stunk in this spot last year.
Yeah, and Kansas City can run away with it quick.
We'll see how this line moves. Right now, the Bills are getting all the attention, but I think earlier in the week limits are lower. People, especially the big syndicates like to get their money down, push the number one way, and then come back later in the week and hammer it at what their target is. That is interesting. So with that being said, Brian, any games you're betting now? Any lines you like? Anything you're running to the window to get down? Perhaps my Tennessee Titans, who can't block and can't rush the passer against Jacksonville.
I almost feel like, I'm gonna pick up your trend here, and the Saints are a short favorite in Washington. I think they get back on track, and I like them even on the road as a very small favorite, because how do you play a game and get Alvin Kamara 0 effing targets? I do not understand what they are doing there. So I think that's a game I like. And then the other one for me, and I think this is kind of going out on a limb, but Minnesota as a 7.5 point favorite coming off that loss to Cleveland. They're at home against Detroit, potentially the worst team in football. Minnesota's pass rush is really good. I think that this is a spot where Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, or Alexander Mattison just blow up Detroit on offense, and they've run away with this game fairly early.
Couple things. Lions are getting 65% of the bets and 95% of the money at this point. This line's moved down to 7.5. That'll be fun to keep an eye on. I do like looking at the under in the Rams Seahawks game on Thursday night. It's at 54.5, depending where you look.
That's a lot.
34% of the bets, 47% of the money on the under. I like the under quite a bit. I think there'll be a little more running than we expect. I think it'll be a little bit closer than we expect. And on Thursday, I feel like this game has all the, this will be an amazing Thursday night. Let's have so much fun watching it. And all of a sudden,
it's going to be a typical Thursday game.
17-14, 13-16 in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go. And Seattle's trying to kick a game-winning field goal, something like that. So that is a game with, especially as a Thursday night, I would be looking to back. I don't love either side. Everyone's pounding the Rams.
I was just going to say, I think the total in this game is definitely a response to what Arizona was able to do to the Rams pass defense. But I'm sorry, but DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, as good as they are, that's all Seattle has. And they don't deviate from those guys. And Jalen Ramsey is probably going to be put on DK, physical, best corner in football versus one of the best wide receivers in football. I like Ramsey, to defend that. And then I think this is definitely going to be a lot smaller of a total than what the line is listed at.
Yeah, I like Carolina too. I think they're getting 3.5. Anyway, look, all the money's on there. So if you like Carolina, now is the time to jump on board, or you may miss out on that number.
I think the question in that game before we get out of here is, does Sam Darnold get another rushing touchdown?
Just one? I think he'll get two.
That's crazy.
Whenever Sam Darnold became Josh Allen, I don't really know, but I'm loving every minute. But yeah, my Sam Darnold to win MVP ticket is looking mighty nice. And if the Bucs keep dealing with these injuries and Gronk's out and the secondary's out, maybe Carolina goes and wins that division, Brian. I mean,
that would be insane.
Then I would be cashing that ticket.
That would be crazy.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody hopping on. Appreciate everybody joining. Make sure you're smashing that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. We're marching ever closer to 300. We appreciate everybody jumping in on our best bets, but let us know, on our recap show, what you think, how you're feeling, anything you're betting now, any player props you're thinking about targeting. As we head into week 5, a month of the season isn't officially in the books, Brian. We're off and running. The season will be over before we know it. We got NBA, we got NHL around the corner.
College basketball.
Bad luck to your Yankees. Good luck to my Giants. We'll talk to y'all next time.